सो वेरी गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल। दिस साइड रूबी आहूजा एंड हम लोग आज डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं गोल्ड के बारे में। सो बेसिकली आज तो हमारी मार्केट ओपन है नहीं, तो हम लोग जो डिस्कस करेंगे कि लास्ट वीक में क्या डेटा देखने को मिले और आगे आने वाले वीक में क्या क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज है होने की। सो डिस्कस करने से पहले एक बार क्लियर कर दीजिए आप लोग को मेरी आवाज़ क्लियर है और स्क्रीन प्रॉपरली विजिबल है, ताकि हम लोग आज का सेशन यहाँ से स्टार्ट कर सकें। ओके, सो हम लोग डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं गोल्ड के बारे में। सो गोल्ड ट्रेड्स टू अ क्रिटिकल प्राइस सपोर्ट लेवल दिस वीक। सो गोल्ड हमारा एक क्रिटिकल लेवल्स के आसपास मूव करते हुए दिस वीक देखने को मिला, क्योंकि बार बार मार्केट हमारी डाउन आती हुई दिख रही थी। सो डिस्कस करते हैं पॉइंट्स टू बी डिस्कस टुडे। गोल्ड प्राइसेस एंडेड द वीक विद लिटिल चेंज। गोल्ड इन्वेस्टर्स रिवाइज्ड डॉट प्लॉट। गोल्ड्स स्ट्रॉन्ग bearish reaction. Gold was trading high and reached an apex. Gold spot US dollar and XAU USD chart. सो गोल्ड प्राइसेस एंडल द वीक विद लिटिल चेंज। हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि गोल्ड जो अपना ये वीक जो एंड किया हुआ है बहुत ही कम चेंजेस के साथ ही, क्योंकि 1700 की रेंज में ही थी और उसी रेंज में हम लोग क्लोज दिखाते हुए मिला है। So gold prices ended the week with a little change on the day and little price change when compared to the last Friday's close. सो गोल्ड प्राइस हम लोग को देखने को मिल रहा है इस वीक में जो क्लोजिंग देखने को मिली है वो लास्ट वीक की क्लोजिंग के आसपास ही कहीं ना कहीं देखने को मिली है, और लास्ट क्लोजिंग और अभी की क्लोजिंग जो है पूरी तरीके से बराबर की होते हुए दिख रही है। So gold futures faces the most active December 2021 contract is currently fixed at 1750, which is a net gain of $0.80, that is 0.05% on the day. तो हम लोग को देखने को मिल रहा है मोस्ट एक्टिव 2021 कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जो गोल्ड का देखने को मिल रहा है वो अभी फिक्स रेट पे ही है 1750 के लेवल पे, और नेट गेन 0.80 पॉइंट्स की तेजी के साथ और 0.05% की तेजी एक दिन में देखने को मिली। So gold futures did trade with a lower high and a higher low when compared to yesterday's trading range. The largest decline occurred yesterday and delayed reaction to Wednesday's conclusion of this month's FOMC meeting. तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि गोल्ड ने पूरी तरीके से बहुत ही ज़्यादा करेक्शन दिखाते हुए मिला है लास्ट डे भी, यानी कि येस्टरडे एंड वेनसडे के एफओएमसी क्लोजिंग के बाद हम लोग को देखने को मिला कि वापस से गोल्ड हमारा डिप बनाते हुए दिख रहा है, जो कि 1800 की रेंज से वापस से 1730 टू 1750 की रेंज में फिलहाल मूवमेंट दिखाते हुए देख सकते हैं गोल्ड के प्राइसेस। तो गोल्ड के प्राइसेस पूरी तरीके से अप्स बनाने के बाद वापस से अपने डिप्स की ओर 0.382 पॉइंट्स पे, यानी कि हमारा फिबोनाची लेवल 38% पे अभी 1738 के आसपास मूव करते हुए, अगर इसको ब्रेक करता है तो पूरी तरीके से हम लोग को ये लेवल्स 1600 के वापस से देखने को मिल सकते हैं। गोल्ड चार्ट से पूरी तरीके से मेंशन्ड है कि अगर ये एक इन्वर्टेड हैमर पूरी तरीके से फॉर्म हुआ तो एक बार अपसाइड मूव कर सकता है, और अगर वापस से टिप्स दिखाता है तो 1600 तक के सपोर्ट मार्केट से वापस से देखने को मिल सकता है। So gold dramatically lower. The fundamental event that pressured gold dramatically lower yesterday was the release of the FOMC meeting statement and Chairman Jerome Powell's press conference. In terms of when Federal Reserve will begin to taper, the statement acknowledged that tapering will begin soon. तो हम लोग को जो मीटिंग देखने को मिल रही है उसमें पूरी तरीके से देखा गया कि फेड की जब बात की जा रही थी तो उस टाइम पे हम लोग को टेपरिंग की बात जो थी वो नवंबर में देखने को मिल रही है कि टेपरिंग में वापस से टेपरिंग के जो रिजल्ट है हम लोग को वो नवंबर में देखने को मिलेंगे, जिसकी वजह से गोल्ड में जो मोमेंट था वो बहुत ही स्लाइट होते हुए दिखा, और जो दिखा तो थोड़ा सा अपसाइड मोमेंट दिखाते हुए 1750 तक के क्लोजिंग दिखाते हुए मिला. The Federal Reserve, it is now believed that an announcement as to when the Federal Reserve will begin the process of tapering their monthly asset purchase will be in November. It is also widely believed that tapering could begin as early as December. तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि जैसे कि देखने को मिला फेड मीटिंग के बाद कि नवंबर में हम लोग को टेपरिंग के रिजल्ट देखने को मिल सकते हैं, बट उम्मीद ये भी है कि अगर नवंबर नहीं तो दिसंबर की स्टार्टिंग तक हम लोग को देखने को मिल जाएंगे. So gold investors revised dot plot. However, the news that settled is market participants and gold investors was the newly revised dot plot, which showed the projection of interest rate normalization. The most recent projection revealed that there could be an interest rate hike next year rather than 2023. तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि जिस तरीके से इंटरेस्ट रेट की बात की जा रही है तो 2023 के बजाय हम लोग को देखने को मिल सकता है कि 2022 में ही इंटरेस्ट रेट एक बार हाइक किए जाए, और अगर ऐसा होता है तो वापस से हमारा गोल्ड टिप्स बना सकता है. The Federal Reserve acknowledged inflationary pressures, so the Federal Reserve had made it emphatically clear that their timeline to bigger tapering and their timeline to initiate liftoff of interest rate normalization have different criteria. The Federal Reserve also acknowledged that inflationary pressures will probably be sustained for a longer period than the most recently projected. The Fed has been focusing on maximum employment rather than inflationary pressures, both of which compose their primary dual mandate. Inflationary pressures continue to mount as indicated by the release this month of August CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So it indicated an increase of 0.3% from July to August. The report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics also indicated that inflation has risen to 5.3% for the 12 months ending in 2021 August. The consumer price index for all urban consumers index increases 0.3% in August on a seasonally adjusted basis after rising 0.5% in July, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Over the last 12 months, the all items index increased 5.3% before seasonal adjustment. It is this report that is most likely the underlying rationale for the Federal Reserve moving up their timeline for liftoff when they will raise interest rates for the first time since the onset of pandemic over 20 months ago. Gold's strong bearish reaction to the potential for interest rate rising quicker than the Federal Reserve had projected previously. तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि गोल्ड के स्ट्रॉन्ग बेयरिश रिएक्शन वापस से देखने को मिल रहा है, क्योंकि इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ने की उम्मीदें पूरी की तरीके से की जा रही है। एज प्रीवियसली जो प्रोजेक्ट किया गया था उससे ज़्यादा हम लोग को देखने को मिल रहा है कि 2023 की बजाय 2022 में ही हम लोग को एक बार इंटरेस्ट रेट हाइज होते हुए देखेंगे, जिसकी वजह से हम लोग को गोल्ड में एक बार बेयरिश सिग्नेचर देखने को मिल सकते हैं। So a Fibonacci harmonics between two data sets. This is because higher interest rate increasingly intrinsically increase the opportunity of holding gold, which is no interest rates gain to the investor. Gold is currently very susceptible to lower pricing, and on a technical basis, it is a key and critical level. Our technical studies indicate a Fibonacci harmonics between two data sets, one created from daily chart and the other created from weekly chart. देख सकते हैं फिबोनाची हार्मोनिक्स बिटवीन टू डेटा सेट्स। फर्स्ट डेटा सेट्स हम लोग देख सकते हैं, तो ये वीकली बेसिस पे हमारा, और वीकली बेसिस पे हम लोग देख रहे हैं 1800 के लेवल, 1840 के लेवल, 1740 के लेवल, और उसको ब्रेक करता है तो 1600 तक के लेवल्स देखने को मिल सकते हैं। Whereas gold was trading high and reached an apex. So the longest data set begins in October 2018 when gold was trading at 1171. 2018 में गोल्ड हम लोग को डॉलर 1171 के आसपास देखने को मिल रहा था। Up to the current record high level in August of last year when gold reached an apex of 2088. तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं जिस तरीके से गोल्ड हम लोग को लास्ट 2018 में देखने को मिला था $1171 के आसपास मूव करते हुए, जबकि हम लोग बात करें पिछले ईयर, तो पिछले ईयर गोल्ड ने अपना पूरी तरीके से हाई बनाया 2088 पे अगस्त के लास्ट ईयर में। So currently gold is low this week, matched the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement of long data set. So Fibonacci harmonic, it also matched the 61.8% retracement which was created from a daily chart. A Fibonacci harmonics occur when two different data sets have the same price point for one of the key Fibonacci numbers. This makes that price point to a much more critical level on a technical basis. So हार्मोनिक लेवल्स हम लोग देख सकते हैं वीकली बेसिस पे, तो 1200, 1380, 1520, 1620, इसके बाद 1750 और 1750 के बाद 1800 तक के लेवल्स हम लोग को देखने को मिल रहे हैं। सो गोल्ड स्पॉट देख सकते हैं 1750 पे प्राइजेस गोल्ड के चार्ट, और हम लोग आ जाते हैं अपने फॉरेक्स फैक्ट्री डेटा पे। सो देख सकते हैं मंडे से थर्सडे तक के, थर्सडे फ्राइडे तक के हम लोग डेटा नोटिस करेंगे। सो मंडे की बात करते हैं, 20 सितंबर हम लोग के जो डेटा पब्लिश होने वाले हैं गोल्ड के लिए हमारे, तो वो हम लोग को देखने को मिल रहा है कि यूएसटी की अगर हम लोग बात करें तो एनएएचपी हाउसिंग मार्केट इंडेक्स, जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं दिख रहा है हम लोग को क्योंकि येलो कलर के डेटा से है, येलो कलर के साइन। ओके, इट वाज 20 सितंबर एंड आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द 27 सितंबर। तो 27 सितंबर की बात करें तो हमारे पास यूएसटी के जो डेटा है एफओएमसी मेंबर इवांस पीक 5:30 बजे देखने को मिलने वाला है, और ये मीडियम टर्म इम्पॉर्टेंट रहेगा। इसके साथ ही बात कर ले तो 6 बजे कोर ड्यूरेबल गुड्स मंथ टू मंथ। ओके, इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर गोल्ड क्योंकि देख सकते हैं ऑरेंज कलर से, मीडियम टर्म इम्पैक्टेड। एंड measurement is the change in the total number of value of new product purchases with manufacturers for gold durables excluding transportation items. Usual impact देख ले तो actual greater than forecast and it is good for our currency. हर 26 दिन पे हम लोग को रिलीज होते हुए दिखता है और मंथ के एंड पे ही। प्रीवियस 0.8%, एक्सपेक्टेशन 0.5% की है। अगर इससे ऊपर रिजल्ट आते हुए दिखता है तो गोल्ड एक बार डिप्स करते हुए 1727 तक के रिजल्ट देता हुआ मिल सकता है। साथ ही में इसी टाइम पे हम लोग को कोर ड्यूरेबल गुड्स मंथ टू मंथ के साथ साथ ड्यूरेबल गुड्स मंथ टू मंथ भी देखने को मिल रहा है। और इसका सोर्स जो है सेंसस ब्यूरो। मेजरमेंट इज द चेंज इन द टोटल नंबर ऑफ न्यू परचेसेस ऑर्डर प्लेस्ड विद मैन्युफैक्चरर्स फॉर गोल्ड ड्यूरेबल्स। देख सकते हैं डिफरेंस क्या है ड्यूरेबल गुड्स और कोर ड्यूरेबल गुड्स में, कि ड्यूरेबल गुड्स में हमारा ओनली मैन्युफैक्चरर ऑफ ड्यूरेबल गुड्स आता है पूरी तरीके से, और इसमें ट्रांसपोर्टेशन को हम लोग एक्सक्लूड कर देते हैं, तो कोर ड्यूरेबल गुड्स मंथ टू मंथ। यूजर इम्पैक्ट इसका भी एक्चुअल ग्रेटर देन फोरकास्ट देखने को मिला, तो हमारी करेंसी के लिए स्ट्रांग होते हुए दिखेगा। एंड एज वी नो हमारा करेंसी और गोल्ड दोनों ही वाइस वर्सा मूव करते हैं, यानी कि अगर गोल्ड ऊपर होते हुए दिखेगा तो हमारी करेंसी डाउन होती हुई, और करेंसी ऊपर होती हुई दिखी तो गोल्ड डाउन होते हुए। राइट, तो इसके हम लोग प्रीवियस रिजल्ट्स देख रहे हैं, -0.1%, एक्सपेक्टेशन 0.7% की है। इससे ऊपर रिजल्ट आता है तो हम लोग को पॉजिटिव साइन देखने को मिलेगा इकोनॉमी के लिए, और वाइस वर्सा डाउन होती हुई दिखेगी। सो ये दोनों हमारे इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ हमारी 6 बजे के टाइम पे। 6:30 बजे की बात करें तो एफओएमसी मेंबर विलियम स्पीक, और 9:30 बजे एफओएमसी मेंबर विलियम स्पीक वापस से। 9:45 पे एफओएमसी मेंबर ब्रेनेंट स्पीक, यानी कि हमारे जो मंडे मार्केट है वो स्पीक्स के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि काफ़ी ज़्यादा हम लोग को लेक्चर्स देखने को मिलेंगे और उस बेसिस पे देखने को मिलेगा कि आगे का मूव कैसा हो सकता है, और उस टाइम पे मार्केट भी काफ़ी अच्छी वोलेटाइल रहेगी। सो यहाँ तक हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया। अगर आप लोग को सब कुछ क्लियर है काइंडली प्रेस 1 ताकि हम लोग आगे की, सॉरी काइंडली प्रेस 10 ताकि हम लोग आगे की चीज़ें डिस्कस करें। काइंडली प्रेस 10 अगर आप लोग को सारी चीज़ें क्लियर हो रही हैं, ताकि हम लोग आगे की चीज़ें डिस्कस करें। ओके, सो हम लोगों ने मंडे के रिजल्ट्स देख लिया कि मंडे को हम लोग को कौन सा डेटा देखने को मिल रहा है। ट्यूसडे की बात करते हैं तो ट्यूसडे हमारे लिए यूएसटी के लिए ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है बेसिकली। 6 बजे जो डेटा देखने को मिलना है गुड्स ट्रेड बैलेंस, और गुड्स ट्रेड बैलेंस में हम लोग देखेंगे तो सिर्फ सोर्सेज सेंसस ब्यूरो। मेजरमेंट इज द चेंज इन द वैल्यू बिटवीन इम्पोर्टेंट एंड एक्सपोर्टेड गुड्स ड्यूरिंग द रिपोर्टेड मंथ। यूजुअल इफेक्ट एक्चुअल ग्रेटर देन फोरकास्ट इज गुड फॉर करेंसी। So difference is the value between imported and exported goods, actual greater than forecast हमारी करेंसी के लिए अच्छा होते हुए. So हम लोग देख रहे हैं प्रीवियस रिजल्ट्स -86.4 बिलियन एंड एक्सपेक्टेशन -87.4 बिलियन. एंड इसके साथ ही हमारी 6 बजे एक और देखने को मिलेगी प्रीलिम होलसेल इन्वेंट्रीज मंथ टू मंथ, जिसमें कि सोर्स हमारा सेंसस ब्यूरो. मेजरमेंट इज द चेंज इन द टोटल वैल्यू ऑफ गुड्स हेल्ड इन इन्वेंट्री बाय होलसेलर्स. यूजुअल इम्पैक्ट actual less than forecast is good for currency. इसकी भी जो रिलीज होती है वो हम लोग को 30 डेज आफ्टर द मंथ एंड देखने को मिलती है. हर 30 डेज पे रिलीज होती है, यानी कि मंथ एंड पे हम लोग को डेटा देखने को मिलता है. एंड प्रीवियस 0.6%, एक्सपेक्टेशन 0.8%. एंड करेंटली हम लोग देखेंगे कि ट्यूसडे को कैसे रिजल्ट्स देखने को मिलते हैं. तो 6 बजे हमारे ये डेटा आते हुए दिखेंगे. इसके साथ ही 6:30 बजे हम लोग को जो डेटा देखने को मिल रहा है, एफओएमसी मेंबर्स इवान स्पीक देखने को मिलेगा, एचपीआई मंथ टू मंथ एंड S&P CS Composite 20 HPI CPI ईयर टू ईयर. एंड 7:30 बजे का हम लोग का जो डेटा है सीबी कंज्यूमर कॉन्फिडेंस, एंड इसमें हम लोग को देखने को मिलेगा दी सोर्सेस द कॉन्फ्रेंस बोर्ड इनकॉर्पोरेशन एंड measurement level of a composite index based on surveyed household. Usual impact actual greater than forecast is good for currency. इसकी भी रिलीज हम लोग को लास्ट ट्यूसडे ऑफ द करेंट मंथ, यानी कि हर मंथ के एंड में जो ट्यूसडे आता है उसमें हम लोग को देखने को मिलता है. प्रीवियस 11 111.8 एंड एक्सपेक्टेशन 115.2. देखेंगे इस बार का रिजल्ट कैसा आता है. इसके साथ ही एक और डेटा हम लोग को देखने को मिलेगा, यानी कि ये वीक हमारा डेटा के लिए बहुत अच्छा है. Richmond Manufacturing Index, source Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. Measurement level of a composite index based on surveyed manufacturers in Richmond. Usual impact, actual greater than forecast is good for currency. Frequency, ये हमारी हर मंथ के फोर्थ ट्यूसडे को देखने को मिलता है. फोर्थ यानी कि लास्ट ट्यूसडे हम लोग को यूजुअली देखने को मिलेगा और उसी पे ही वो इम्पैक्ट देखने को मिलेंगे. प्रीवियस 9, एक्सपेक्टेशन 9. देखेंगे रिजल्ट किस डायरेक्शन में आते हैं. इसके साथ ही वेडनेसडे मार्केट की बात कर ले तो वेडनेसडे हमारी जीबीपी की सॉरी यूएसटी के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है काफ़ी, क्योंकि 6:30 बजे तक कोई मूव देखने को नहीं मिल रहा है. बट अगर हम लोग 7:30 की बात करते हैं तो 7:30 बजे हमारा इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा पेंडिंग होम सेल्स मंथ टू मंथ और सोर्स नेशनल एसोसिएशन ऑफ रिटेल रियल्टर्स. मेजरमेंट चेंज इन द नंबर ऑफ होम अंडर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट टू बी सोल्ड बट स्टिल अवेटिंग द क्लोजिंग transaction excluding new construction. Usual impact, actual greater than forecast is good for currency. Frequency released monthly about 28 days after the month ends. Previous -1.8%, expectations 1.1%. 8 बजे क्रूड ऑयल इन्वेंट्रीज और इसमें भी हम लोग को सोर्स एनर्जी इंफॉर्मेशन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. मेजरमेंट चेंज इन द नंबर ऑफ बैरल्स ऑफ क्रूड ऑयल हेल्ड इन इन्वेंट्री बाय कमर्शियल firms during the past week. Usual impact, actual less than forecast is good and previous -3.5 millions. इसके साथ ही हम लोग को वेडनेसडे को भी एक स्पीक देखने को मिलेगा जो कि फेड चेयर पवेल स्पीक है 9:15 बजे के लगभग, और 11:30 बजे एफओएमसी मेंबर बोस्टिक स्पीक. थर्सडे की बात कर ले 30 सितंबर, तो 30 सितंबर हमारी यूएसटी के लिए फाइनल जीडीपी क्वार्टर टू क्वार्टर यानी के लिए बहुत अच्छा डेटा शाम को 6 बजे का आने वाला है. ब्यूरो ऑफ इकोनॉमिक एनालिस्ट measurement analyze change in the inflation adjusted value of all goods and services produced by the economy. Usual impact, actual greater than forecast is good for currency. Frequency released quarterly about 85 days after the quarter end. Previous 6.6%, expectation 6.7%. इसके साथ ही अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट क्लेम्स देखने को मिलेंगे जो कि प्रीवियस से 351 के एक्सपेक्टेड है 328 के। फाइनल जीडीपी प्राइस इंडेक्स क्वार्टर टू क्वार्टर प्रीवियस 6.1%, एक्सपेक्टेशन 6.1%। इसके साथ ही 7:15 बजे हम लोग को जो डेटा देखने को मिलेगा, शिकागो पीएमआई जो कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, अच्छा खासा। सोर्स आईएसएम शिकागो इनकॉर्पोरेशन। लेवल ऑफ a diffusion index based on surveyed purchasing manager in Chicago area। यूजुअल इम्पैक्ट एक्चुअल ग्रेटर देन फोरकास्ट हमारी करेंसी के लिए अच्छा होगा, प्रीवियस 66.8, एक्सपेक्टेशन 64.9 की। इसके साथ ही 7:30 बजे एफओएमसी मेंबर विलियम स्पीक नेचुरल गैस स्टोरेज। 8:30 बजे एफओएमसी मेंबर बोस्टिक स्पीक एंड एफओएमसी मेंबर इवान स्पीक्स। फ्राइडे 1 अक्टूबर हमारे लिए काफ़ी अच्छा, क्योंकि इसमें हम लोग को बहुत अच्छे डेटा देखने को मिलने वाले हैं। शाम से ही, शाम को 6 बजे हम लोग को कोर पीसी प्राइस इंडेक्स मंथ टू मंथ, एंड इसमें हम लोग देख लेते हैं सोर्स ब्यूरो ऑफ इकोनॉमिक एनालिस्ट। Measurement change in the price of goods and services purchased by consumers excluding food and energy। एक्चुअल ग्रेटर देन फोरकास्ट हमारी करेंसी के लिए स्ट्रांग होगा, प्रीवियस 0.3%, एक्सपेक्टेशन 0.2% की। ये मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा है हमारा फ्राइडे को जो आने वाला है। इसके साथ ही हम लोग का 7 बजे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पीएमआई सीईटी का है, वो 7:15 बजे फाइनल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पीएमआई। 7:30 बजे बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा है आईएसएम सर्विसेज, आईएसएम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पीएमआई जो कि प्रीवियस 59.9, एक्सपेक्टेशन 59.6। Revised UM consumer sentiment, consumer construction spending month to month, ISM some manufacturing prices, and revised UOM inflation expectations and वर्ड्स टोटल व्हीकल सेल्स। ये सारे डेटाज हम लोग को आने वाले वीक में देखने को मिलने वाले हैं। हम लोग आगे डिस्कस करेंगे बाकी की चीज़ें, बट उसके पहले एक बार क्लियर कर दीजिए अभी तक सब कुछ क्लियर हो रहा है। इफ यस काइंडली प्रेस 30 इन द चैट बॉक्स। काइंडली प्रेस 20 ताकि हम लोग आगे की चीज़ें डिस्कस कर सकें। ओके, सो हम लोग आ जाते हैं अपने goldnetindia.com पे। सो goldnetindia.com, गोल्ड के प्राइजेस थोड़ा सा रिफ्रेश होने देंगे। सो गोल्ड के प्राइसेस 1747.4753 पे हम लोग को क्लोजिंग दिखाते हुए मिले। डेली ओपनिंग से 1.22 पॉइंट्स की तेजी यानी कि 0.07% की तेजी के साथ देखने को मिले। लास्ट डे की रेंज हम लोग को 1757.61 पे हाई और 1740.41 पे लो बनाते हुए ओपनिंग 1746.27, क्लोजिंग 1746.25 पे दी थी। प्रीवियस टू प्रीवियस ईयर वाइज चेंजेस की बात करें तो 147.29 पॉइंट्स की गिरावट। ईयर वाइज परसेंटेज चेंजेस की बात करें तो 7.77% की गिरावट के साथ। फिफ्टी टू वीक्स हाई की बात करें तो 1965.47, 52 वीक्स लो 1676.73। वॉल्यूम जो ट्रेड करते हुए दिख रहा था उस टाइम पे 5 करोड़ 71 लाख के आसपास। और डेली बेसिस की कैंडल देख लें तो ओके, वनडे की कैंडल अगर हम लोग देखते हैं तो वनडे की कैंडल एक शॉर्ट डोजी कैंडल से मूव करती हुई दिखी है हम लोग को, यानी कि बहुत ज़्यादा डिफरेंस नहीं, अपनी ओपनिंग के आसपास ही क्लोज बनाती हुई दिखी। सो देख सकते हैं US 30 हम लोग का लास्ट डे पॉजिटिव रहा, बिटकॉइन पॉजिटिव, शंघाई ऐसी नेगेटिव क्लोज हुआ, UK 100 भी नेगेटिव क्लोज हुआ, डेक्स 30 भी नेगेटिव, निकाई 225 भी नेगेटिव, निफ्टी 50 पॉजिटिव क्लोजिंग के साथ, SX 200 पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव क्लोजिंग के साथ, FRA 40 नेगेटिव क्लोजिंग, IC नेशनल 100 नेगेटिव, स्विस MI 20 नेगेटिव, MS टेंडम EX नेगेटिव, OMX S30 नेगेटिव, बेल्जियम 20 नेगेटिव, पोर्टुगल SI 20 नेगेटिव, यूके ऑयल पॉजिटिव रहा, WTI क्रूड पॉजिटिव रहा, इसके साथ US डॉलर इंडेक्स हम लोग का पॉजिटिव रहा 74 पॉइंट्स पे। एंड इसके साथ ही हम लोग देख लें कि सॉरी, WTI क्रूड पॉजिटिव रहा, US डॉलर इंडेक्स हमारा पॉजिटिव 93.42 पॉइंट्स पे। गोल्ड स्पॉट हमारा नेगेटिव क्लोज हुआ। सिल्वर स्पॉट नेगेटिव, प्लेटिनम नेगेटिव एंड पैलेडियम भी नेगेटिव हम लोग का रहा। सो ये हमारे फॉलोइंग डेटाज। न्यूज़ पे आ जाते हैं एक बार, न्यूज़ सेक्शन पे। सो हम लोग आ जाते हैं गोल्ड न्यूज़ FX स्ट्रीट पे। सो XAU USD hangs near multi-weeks low around 1745 ahead of Powell. Gold struggle to capitalize on its attempted intraday recovery move. Hawkish Fed BOE rising bond yields acted as a headwind for the metal. Resurgent USD demand exerted additional pressure on commodity. So, from a technical perspective, any subsequent decline is likely to find some support near the 1730 to 29 horizontal zone. Some follow through selling will set the stake for deeper losses and track gold back towards the 1700 round figure mark. On the flip side, the daily swings high around 1757 to 58 region now seems to act as an immediate hurdle above which bulls might aim to challenge the 200-hour barrier. So now seems to act an immediate hurdle above which bulls might aim to challenge the 200-hour barrier currently near at 1771 to 1772 zone. Only a sustained move beyond the latter will negate the near-term negative bias and pave the way for some meaningful near-term appreciating move for metal. Fundamental overviews की बात कर ले, so gold attempted a modest recovery from the overnight slump to the lowest level since August 11. Albeit struggled to capitalize on the modest intraday gains. Lingering concerns about the Fed to debt ridden China Evergrande Group tempered investors' appetite for perceived riskier assets. This was evident from a modest pullback in equity markets, which was seen as a key factor that drove some heaven flow towards the precious metal. However, a combination of factors had acted as a tailwind for the XAU-USD and kept a lid on any meaningful gains, rather prompted fresh selling at higher levels. The momentum ran out of steam near the 1757 to 58 region amid the prospect for an earlier rate hike move by the Fed and Bank of England. The Fed on Wednesday indicated that moderation in the pace of asset purchase may soon be warranted if economic progress continued badly as expected. Moreover, the so called dot plot showed a growing inclination to raise interest rate in 2022. Separately, the BOE on Thursday suggested that a modest tightening over the forecast period was likely to be necessary to be consistent with meeting the inflation target sustainably in the medium term. The reprising of likely timings of policy tightening by the Fed and BOE was evident from the ongoing surge in sovereign bond yields. This in turn held bulls from placing aggressive bets around the non-yielding yellow metal. In fact, the yield on the benchmark 10-year US government bond registered the biggest rise in months on Thursday and broke through a technically significant 1.40% level for the first time since July. The US bond yields rose further on Friday and helped revive the US dollar demand, which further undermined demand for dollar denominated commodity, including gold. Gold has now retreated to the lower boundary of the trading range around the 1745 to 45 region and remains on the track and in the red for the third successive week. Market participants now look forward to the scheduled speeches by influential FOMC members, including the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. This, along with the US bond yield, might influence the USD price dynamics and provide some impetus to XEU USD. Traders might further take cues from the broader market risk sentiment to grab some short term opportunities on the last day of week. So देख सकते हैं 1 वीक की एवरेज फोरकास्टिंग अब बेयरिश होते हुए 1728.50. For 1 month it is 1708.50, bias is again bearish, and for 1 quarter it is 1714.55, that is bias is bearish as well. So एक बार इस डेटा को हम लोग देखेंगे. So gold price weekly forecast, XAU USD remains vulnerable amid a hawkish Fed outlook. So XAU-USD closed the third straight week in the negative territory. Hawkish FOMC meeting policy outlook, raising US Treasury bond rate on gold. XAU-USD seems to have formed technical support at 1740 ahead of 1730. Following the previous week's decline, gold staked a rebound and closed in the positive territory on Monday and Tuesday after reaching its strongest level since last Thursday's sharp decline at 1787 on Wednesday. However, the XAU-USD pair lost its transaction as the greenback gathered strength on the back of hawkish FOMC policy outlook. Rising US Treasury bond yields caused the bearish pressure to increase in the second half of the week, and the pair slumped to a multi-week low of 1713 on Thursday before staking a technical rebound and closing near 1750 on Friday. What happened last week? So, at the start of the week, concerns over the Evergrande crisis turning into a global turmoil caused market participants to seek refuge in safe haven. Although the USD outperformed its risk and sentiments rivals, gold didn't have a difficult time finding demand either, reflecting the intense flight to the safety, and the S&P 500 index opened with a large bearish cap and lost 1.7% on Monday. In the absence of high impact data releases, market remains relatively calm on Thursday, and investors stayed on the sidelines. During the Asian trading hours on Wednesday, the People's Bank of India announced that it left the 1 year and 5 year NPR at 3.85% and 4.65% respectively as expected. However, the PBOC also decided to inject around 110 billion Chinese yuan of short-term cash and help market move improve. With risk flows returning to the market, the USD remains on the back foot on Wednesday and allowed XAU-USD to extend its recovery. Nevertheless, the FOMC policy announcement in the second half of the day provided a boost to the greenback and forced gold to turn south. The FOMC left the benchmark interest rate, the target range for federal reserve funds, unchanged at 0 to 0.25%, as widely expected. Following the September policy meeting, in the policy statement, the Fed is noted that if progress continues toward the employment and inflation goals broadly as expected, a moderation in the pace of asset purchases may soon be warranted. The fact that the publication failed to deliver a tapering timeline caused the USD to weaken with the initial reaction. However, the updated summary of projection revealed that the number of policymakers who see a rate hike in 2022 rose to now 9 from 7 in June. More importantly, So, more importantly, FOMC Chairman Jerome Powell defined that the language in this statement means to flag the bar for taper could be met as soon as the next meeting. Additionally, Powell said that they are planning to conclude the taper around mid year 2022. While commenting on the disappointing August job report, the chairman noted that the weak non farm payrolls reading was caused by the sudden spike seen in coronavirus Delta cases and added that they do not need a very strong September job report to go ahead with the taper. Supported by the hawkish policy outlook, the US dollar index climbed to a monthly high on Wednesday and XAU slapped a 3-day winning streak. On Thursday, the impressive upsurge witnessed in US Treasury bond yields weighed heavily on gold and XAU extended its slide to a fresh 5-week low of 1737.84. In the meantime, the US Department of Labor's weekly publication showed that the initial jobless claims rose to 3,51,000 from 3,35,000. On the last trading day of the week, gold made a technical correction towards 1750. बात करेंगे नेक्स्ट वीक की बट उसके पहले एक बार 30 प्रेस कर दीजिए अगर अभी तक सब कुछ क्लियर है तो प्रेस 30 ताकि हम लोग आगे की चीजें डिस्कस कर सकें. प्रेस 30 अगर अभी तक सब कुछ क्लियर हो रहा है और आवाज क्लियर आ रही है, स्क्रीन प्रॉपरली विजिबल है ताकि हम लोग आगे की चीजें वापस से देख सकें. सो डिस्कस करते हैं नेक्स्ट वीक के बारे में. So on Monday, August durable goods orders will be featured in the US economic ticket. But this data by itself is unlikely to trigger a significant market reaction. On Tuesday, the conference board will release the consumer confidence data for September. On Thursday, the US Bureau of Economic Analysts will be published the final estimate of second quarter gross domestic product growth alongside the US Department of Labor weekly initial jobless claims report. The core personal consumers expenditure price index. The core personal consumer expenditure price index, the Fed's preferred gauge of inflation, will be looked upon the fresh impetus on Friday ahead of ISM manufacturing PMI and DOM's consumer sentiment index data. Meanwhile, investors will keep a close eye on US Treasury bond yield moment and the general risk in sentiment. 1.5% aligned as key resistance. The benchmark 10-year US Treasury bond yield and a break above that level could trigger a rally and pave the way for another leg lower in the gold prices. गोल्ड टेक्निकल आउटलुक की बात करें तो डिस्पाइट फ्राइडेज रिबाउंड So despite Friday's rebound, the relative strength indicator on the daily chart stays near 40, suggesting that the bearish bias remains intact. On the downside, static support seemed to have formed at 1740 ahead of 1730 and 1720. On the other hand, a daily close above 1770 could attract buyers and gold could target 1790 before 1800 and 1805. सेंटिमेंट पोल की बात करें तो एफएक्स फोरकास्ट पोल पॉइंट्स to a clear bearish shift in the gold's outlook following the weak section. The average price on the 1 week view declined to 1728 from 1750 previously. More importantly, 70% of experts expect gold to push lower. Similarly, the average target on the month and the 1 quarter views stand at 1704 and 1714. So the US government plans to default on debt the dishonest way. इससे पहले हम लोग आ जाते हैं किसी चीज पे तो हम लोग आते हैं गोल्ड न्यूज रिटर्स पे. So corrected precious gold claims on weaker dollar, lingering Evergrande's risk. So bullion set to a 6-week low on Thursday. Gold bullions weakening again after Friday's gain. Analysts says some Evergrande fears easing. So gold prices rose on Friday to due to a subdued dollar and as investors avoided riskier asset because of China's Evergrande saga. But looming interest rate hikes slowed bullion's advance. Spot gold was 0.4% higher at 1750 per ounce by 1:50 p.m. EDT, but still on course for a third consecutive weeks of falls. US gold futures settled up 0.1% to $1751.7. Although gold recovered some ground after Thursday's 1% fall, ONADA analyst Craig Elram expected gold to weaken again. We will see a continuation of the downside trend driven by the Fed's stint, especially as some of the fears surrounding Evergrande have subsided. Gold slid to a 1 month low on Thursday on expectation the US Federal Reserve could hike rates, but a weakening dollar index on the Friday offered support, making bullion cheaper for gold holders of the other currencies. The Fed has announced that tapering is ahead. The next step is when it's implemented. That will push real rates even further up, and that should be negative for the gold. Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester said on a Friday that central banks should start reducing its support for the economy in November and could start raising interest rate by the end of the year. Could should labor market continue to improve? A Fed rate hike would increase the opportunity cost of holding gold, which pays no interest. Elsewhere, palladium fell 0.9% to $1965.54 per ounce and was on track for a third straight weekly decline. Platinum slipped 1.2% to $976.85 per ounce, although the metal was set to rise on the week after two weekly falls. Silver fell 0.6% to $22.35. बाकी की चीजें डिस्कस करने से पहले प्रेस 40 अगर अभी तक सब कुछ क्लियर है. प्रेस 40 अगर अभी तक सब कुछ क्लियर हो रहा है ताकि हम लोग आगे की चीजें बाकी डिस्कस कर सकें. सो हम लोग देखते हैं एक क्लिप. दिस इज हाउ टू पिक गोल्ड सिल्वर स्टॉक्स अकॉर्डिंग टू वेटरन जियोलॉजिस्ट एक्सप्लोरेशन इनसाइट्स.
Kitco News special coverage.
To take these projects into production. That's just the mindset of most ASX companies. But here, I would say most of the exploration companies, that's definitely the
Kitco News special coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by Corvus Gold.
It's good to have both of you here. Both faces of Exploration Insights, Joe Mazumdar and Brent Cook. Welcome both to the show.
good to see
We're in beautiful Beaver Creek in Colorado and Precious Metals Summit. Yeah, great to see you both in person. Last time we talked, we shared bear stories. That was a while ago. That was a panel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no. You were there. Yeah, we had a Zoom call there. This time we're going to be talking about stories of what you did in the past year. You were telling me offline that it's been difficult getting out. You were visiting more than 30 properties plus prior to COVID, and that's dropped significantly. But you're still able to do what you do. So tell us about that process.
Living in the States, I've visited probably 6 projects since COVID. Joe's been to a bunch.
I've got to 8 to 9, but the COVID issue has been not actually sometimes getting out of Canada, it was getting back into Canada.
Yeah.
So my first trip prior to this, just leaving the States, was going to Alaska about a month ago. And that was the first time I'd been out since, let's say February last in 2020.
How do you analyze companies without having to physically be there and do site visits?
Well, the trust issue with management and knowing the management team is more important. And so if you don't know the management team, it's harder to do that. Recommend it or buy it in the portfolio if you haven't been to site. Like, I'll just give you an example. So this one company I visited in southern eastern Idaho, like, you can see all the maps you want, but you don't really have the scope and scale of the project and what the access looks like, and where are they going to get water from, where's the processing plant. You don't get that sort of idea until you actually go there and see what's actually going on. And that's the real benefit of site visits and talking to the people that actually do the work.
Yeah.
I think also, we've got, 60 plus years of field experience, probably in 70 countries scattered around the world, and worked with people in each of those countries. So our Rolodex, if you will, there's people we know in these countries that know the projects, and so we can still get a lot of work done without having to get to site, although certainly getting to site is the best.
When you pick companies, and we'll segue into a specific company that we can talk about, but generally speaking, when you pick companies to invest in, what is your exit strategy? Are you looking for a takeout, or are you looking for companies that have the potential to start producing themselves?
I would say that, on the exploration side,
Yeah.
Because exploration companies, especially the ones listed in Canada, don't do a good job of transitioning to production, which is not the case in a lot of ASX companies,
That's interesting.
because that's their whole modus operandi, is to take these projects into production. That's just the mindset of most ASX companies. But here, I would say most of the exploration companies, that's definitely the exit strategy. But still, the paucity of development projects right now because of permitting, and all the issues right now in the industry, sticking a few development projects in your portfolio is not a bad idea. And you look at that a lot differently. And that management team has got to have the operational, a totally different kind of mindset than the people that I'm looking to get taken out potentially on the exploration
From
side.
an investor's perspective, which kind of exit strategy yields a higher return?
It's the higher risk, high return.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about the exploration story, that's probably the highest risk and very much the highest return. But what we've seen so far is with the retail influence, you can get that 10 bagger or whatever just with a news release. Now, still, in this environment, you put out a really good drill intersection, no matter where you are, you'll still get a good response, I think.
Brent, you and I have talked about things we should look out for when picking miners. That seems to be a very popular theme, recurring theme that our viewers would like you to cover. So let's revisit that briefly. So you mentioned to me before, when you're looking for a miner, a junior, explorer even, a couple of things need to be on your radar. They need to be actually publishing their drill results, their data, and their ores data as well. So companies that don't release that kind of information to the public, at least, should be avoided. What other red flags would you put on people's monitors?
Well, we're seeing a lot of companies report grades in terms of gold equivalent or silver equivalent, which means they bulk up copper, lead, zinc, silver, and combine it with the gold, and some throw in cadmium and whatever. Those are different metals, and I think if you're for me, you can call it a copper, a gold equivalent per se, but the recovery you're going to get on those other metals is going to be a lot less, and that's often usually not factored into what the gold equivalent is. So I'm okay with it, but I want to see exactly how much, silver there is, how much zinc there is, what those numbers are as well.
Yeah.
So I know what the grade of the primary product is. Okay. So that's one thing that I've noticed people doing a lot lately that you want to be a little cautious on.
Of course, you have a Twitter account that you flag these companies that you don't think are legitimate, right?
I wouldn't say flag not legitimate. That I will raise a concern.
Raise concerns.
Something to delve into. Yes.
He's always been known to be diplomatic.
Okay, let's talk about a real company, a real life company that you've both worked on, Liberty Gold.
So we've both visited Liberty Gold. Brent lives close to 6 hours away or something like that. And I just recently made a site visit there. And so it's in the northeast corner of the Great Basin, which hosts a lot of deposits, obviously, in Nevada, but also stretches out to southeastern Idaho. The terrain there looks very much like Nevada. No trees, no nothing. It's an open pit heap leach project. It's called Black Pine, and it's operated by Liberty Gold. And why we like it is it's a big mineralized system, and it's amenable to heap leach processing, such that you can have lower grades. And they're drilling more and more. The problem with Liberty happened, 2 months ago when they updated their resources or put out a maiden resource. The market was expecting 2 million because that's what the expectations were set by them. Because of assays and drilling times and that, the release kept getting delayed. But when they came out with the number, unfortunately, they had to use a higher gold price to get the 2 million. So it was 1,800, whereas people would have wanted 2+ million. If you tell somebody 2, they're expecting more.
Okay.
Because they're sort of saying, okay, 2's no risk because you're already telling me it's 2.
Right.
So where's the upside in 2? So are you going to give me 2.5? So I think more people were expecting 2.5, but they weren't expecting an $1,800 gold price. And then when you layer on, okay, now we're going to do a scoping study, retail walks, because now the exploration upside is gone. Because now they're thinking that you're going to nail the project to this 1.72 million ounce resource. Yeah. So now, recently, they've drilled this area that's over and above what they were drilling before, called the Range Front. And they've hit the same sequence that hosts the gold mineralization in their discovery focus area where they have the resource. So that, for me, is interesting because now the story converts back to what it was when we initially bought it, an exploration story, and not a development story.
Well, that's a good case study, yeah, Brent.
Yeah, that's when I went and looked at it, which was probably a year before you got there. That's what really excited me was I could see, okay, we got maybe 1.5, 2 million ounces here, but down there in the flats, that's never really been tested, and the geology's right. And the recent drilling they did, I think D4 zone.
Yeah, they're calling it D4.
And they've hit, and it looks good, and we could see easy another 1 million ounces added down there, and there's more over here. So this is back to being, in my view, an exploration story, and something that's going to grow to be big enough, assuming the strip ratio is not too bad, that I think a major is going to go after, which is our ultimate exit story.
Yeah. Because we don't want them to build it. No. That's not why we invested in
Are they going to build it?
Well, that would be the impression. That would be the impression retail has if you do a scoping study and you start telling people you're going to do a PFS.
Right.
But we would both rather that they just kept drilling. And so they were on the precipice of saying, okay, we're going to drill 40,000 meters and infill what we know and come out with the PEA and maybe a PFS. But now they've switched it to saying we're going to drill 60 to 80,000 meters, and most of the new meterage is going to be in this new area. Yeah. So that's what really excites us and why I continue to hold that.
And the geologic team running it is amongst the best in Nevada. So we've got confidence there. Management, they got plenty of cash. So it ticks every box that we need to see.
And the other thing would be, you got Moira Smith there, who basically found Long Canyon, which was sold to Newmont, but also their CEO is an investment banker who's managed to not have to raise money in the equity markets because he's divesting a lot of assets that they don't get any value for in Turkey. So, yeah.
Well, you want them to get taken out, but is the environment right now ripe for M&A? Is there a lot of activity, any activity at all?
Well, there has been activity where people are close when they're looking for, they have an operating mine and it's running out of ore. We've seen a lot of incremental transactions in Ontario and places like that. But I think what we're going to be seeing is more M&A because, if you look at the Barricks and the Newmonts, a lot of their production profiles are flat and they're just running to stand still. I'm not saying it's a Newmont target, but it could be a mid-tier target for some other producer who wants a foothold in the Great Basin.
And Brent, what are you looking at in terms of prices for M&A? Do you think $1,800 for gold is a reasonable price for any takeout action?
You mean the major company assuming an $1,800 gold price? I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is if they can see, this is fair value, be it $500 million for this, what we know, but we've got, like Liberty Gold, we've got, square miles of exploration potential that has a real likelihood of scoring. They'll pay a decent price for the known with the upside for free.
In your experience, does the price of the gold or silver, any underlying metal, does that really matter so much versus, let's say, the senior or mid-tier's corporate strategy long-term? Maybe they have a plan already in motion for the next 5-10 years of what they need to buy things out, and the price doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, the price does matter because they can't go back into the dilutive M&A scenarios that they had before. But so price does matter, but it's always a competition between organic and inorganic. Mm-hmm. Can you build it yourself, or do you have to acquire something? And usually, with any kind of company, you want a layer of production that goes for 10 plus years. And that's what people are trying to generate in the exploration side. They want a 10-year, 100,000 ounce deposit that somebody would want. But you got to understand that no company is using $1,800 gold to value a company. Most use $1,500 for resources, and business plans for Barrick and Newmont are at $1,200, $1,250. Very conservative.
Let's talk about jurisdictions now. Have your views on your favorite areas around the world changed following COVID?
Certainly. I think, we were talking about this earlier, and he explained it perfectly, how we value I'll tell you what you said. No, go ahead. How we actually make a decision as to what jurisdictions we'll go into.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that you could look at, transparency.org about corruption. You could look at the Fraser Institute. There's a lot of information out there of specific countries about where you want to go into. Yeah. And the majors and the mid-tiers all do that because they want stability of taxes. They want to know that they have the ground, that the security of tenure. Yeah. And so when they actually enter a country, they have to be satisfied that exists. So for me, that's the best proxy. So if I have an exploration company exploring in a country that a major, mid-tier, or some other people operate, then I'm happier about them being there. If they're the only ones there, that first mover advantage can be a serious disadvantage sometimes.
Final question. What's the worst food you've ever eaten at a site visit?
I think probably there's quite a few, but what comes to mind is Inner Mongolia, looking at a real crap project. And dinner there's a pot about yay big, boiling away, and there were 2 sheep feet sticking out of it, hoofs, hair, just boiling away, and there's hair and grease scum on the top and some potatoes.
You can just order a burger.
Yeah, no, that was all there was. That was not a good meal.
That reminded me, because I reminded me. I'll give you another one, which Ghana. when I was coming back to go to the airport, and I stopped off at one of those highway stops. Don't ever do that, people. And I was getting ready to go business class back to Denver. I was working for Newmont, so I was looking forward to that. And yeah, I spent probably 50% of that 8-hour flight, from London back to Denver, in the first class toilet.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Whoa.
don't eat things, just because you're hungry.
Advice taken from off the road and on the field. Thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you both.
Okay, so we have discussed this short clip. So I hope this was clear to you. अगर सब कुछ सही हो तो काइंडली प्रेस 50 ताकि हम लोग आगे की चीजें डिस्कस कर सकें. So gold trades to a critical support level this week. So gold prices extended this week with little change on the day and little change when compared to the last 5 days close. Gold price future basis the most active. December 2021 contract is currently fixed at 1750.60, which is a net gain of 0.80, that is 0.05% on the day. Gold futures did trade with a lower high and higher low when compared to yesterday's trading range. The largest decline occurred yesterday, a delayed reaction to Wednesday's conclusion of this month FOMC meeting. देख सकते हैं फिबोनाची लेवल्स की बात करें तो 1680, 1740, 1780, 1820, 1840, 1870 तक के लेवल्स, ये हम लोग को फिबोनाची लेवल्स देखने को मिल रहे हैं. So the fundamental event. So the fundamental events that pressured gold dramatically lower yesterday was the release of the FOMC meeting statement and Chairman Powell's press conference. In terms of when the Federal Reserve will begin to taper, the statement acknowledged that tapering will begin soon. It is now believed that an announcement as to when the Federal Reserve will begin the process of tapering their monthly asset purchase will be in November. It is also widely believed that tapering could begin as early as December. However, the news that started market participants and gold investors was newly revised dot plot which showed the projection of interest rate normalization. The most recent projection revealed that there could be an interest rate hike next year rather than 2023. The Federal Reserve had made it emphatically clear that their timeline to begin tapering and their timeline to initiate liftoff, the interest rate normalization have different criteria. So Federal Reserve also acknowledged that inflationary pressures will probably be sustained for a longer period than the most recently projected. The Fed has been focusing on maximum employment rather than inflationary pressures. The Fed has been focusing on maximum employment rather than the inflationary pressures, both of which compose their primary dual mandate. Inflationary pressures continue to mount, as indicated by the release this month of August CPI. It indicated an increase of 0.3% from July to August. The report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics also indicated that inflation has risen to 5.3% for the 12 month ending in August 2021. The consumer price index for all urban consumers increased 0.3% in August on a seasonally adjusted basis after rising 0.5% in July. The US Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today over the last 12 months, all the items index increased 5.3% before seasonal adjustment. It is this report that is most likely the underlying rationale for the Federal Reserve moving up their timeline for liftoff when they will raise interest rate for the first time since the onset of pandemic over 12 months ago. Gold's strong bearish reaction to the potential for interest rate rising quicker than the Federal Reserve had projected previously. This is because higher interest rate increasingly increase the opportunity of holding gold which yield no interest gain to the investor. Gold is currently very susceptible to lower pricing and on technical basis as a key and critical level. Our technical studies indicate a Fibonacci harmonics between two data sets, one created from daily chart and one created from weekly charts. The longest data sets begins in October 2018. In October 18, when gold was trading at 1171 up to the current recording high achieved in August of last year, when gold reached an apex of 2088. Currently, gold's last low with this week matched the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement of this long data set. It is also matched the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement which was created from a daily chart. A Fibonacci harmonics occurs when two different data sets have the same price point for one of the key Fibonacci numbers. This makes that price point a much more critical level on a technical basis. So हमारी साइड से आज के लिए इतना ही. अगर आप लोग की साइड से कोई भी क्वेरी हो तो आप लोग मेंशन कर सकते हैं. ओके, तो हम लोग आज का सेशन यहीं पे एंड करते हैं। बाकी की चीज़ें कल के सेशन में डिस्कस करेंगे कि गोल्ड का मूव कैसा रहा और कैसे चेंजेस देखने को मिले। तो तब तक के लिए थैंक यू सो मच एंड आई एम एंडिंग दिस सेशन राइट हियर राइट नाउ। Thank you so much for joining and concentrating and for your precious time.